a reactive department to a proactive, and that's actually where the magic happens. Nowadays, net retention is the key metric for customer success teams, because it's not only about avoiding customers to leave, but also to make sure that they grow. So if you have a team with different personalities, skill set, but they have the same values, I think that's a perfect recipe for success.
Welcome to the Revenue Discussion Podcast. This podcast aims to inspire and educate the newest generation of revenue leaders on various subjects related to sales, marketing, revenue operations, and customer success. Every week, we invite an inspirational guest who is willing to share his or her insight, strategies, and tactics that has worked or still working for him or her. Today, we've invited Nieves Canada to the show. Nieves has always been in tech with experience in both big corporate and scale-ups, and also in both sales and customer success. But what's awesome with Nieves is that the role of customer success resonated so well with her. She got in touch with that role at Showpad, and from there, she grew further in that department as VP Customer Success at iText. And in this episode, she shares the ins and outs to hire and develop a best-in-class customer success team. Enjoy the episode. All right, welcome Nieves to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing very good. It's the sun is shining today, so it's feeling already winter, but a nice winter.
Yeah, I have to say, this kind of weather in December in Belgium, it's kind of unique, especially for someone because you have roots from elsewhere, right? From Spain. Am I not mistaken?
Exactly. This is a typical winter day in my city in Jaén. That's in Spain, but I'm living already in Belgium since 2007. So it's
okay. So you're already used to the Belgian weather, and
yeah, exactly. I don't complain anymore.
No, but we do like Belgium as well, right?
Exactly.
Now, Nieves, I think we have a very pretty interesting discussion ahead of us. Especially talking about customer success, because you have built a very interesting career into that. But before we dive into this, maybe you can introduce yourself a bit for the audience that doesn't know you yet.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Dylan. So yeah, I'm Nieves. I'm currently the VP of Customer Success at iText. By the time this episode will go to the audience, I will be in another role also as VP Customer Success. But actually, I've built my experience through the past 16 years in tech companies in both corporate world. I worked for Sony, for OneSpan, but also for startup and scale-up companies like Showpad or iText. During my career, I've been building and scaling different teams, account management, business development, and also post-sales teams. I've been in leadership now for over 10 years, and since 6 years ago, I'm working in customer success, and that's where I found my happy place.
Yeah, yeah, because you touch on different things, from business development to also managing a business development team to now going to customer success. So definitely interesting to find out, where that passion comes from. And maybe you kind of should explain that, but maybe also at the same time, can you also give a little bit of context around the customer success team that you have been in up till now, to understand, how large was the team? How was the team structured? What was the purpose also of that customer success team? Just so that the audience also get a good image of the context that you were in.
So I've been in at this point in two different companies with customer success, and it was a different maturity level, different stages, and also my role was different. So to give you a little more context, when I first joined customer success, I was working at Showpad. And at that time, I was leading the EMEA BDR team. But due to circumstances, I refound myself in customer success, because I think it's the perfect blending on being with a customer without having to use your hard negotiation skills, which is not my piece of cake. And at that moment, the team was already spread over the US and EMEA. We had people in London, based in Ghent, and also in Munich. So it was a very mature team. There were some processes in place, blueprints. The team was structured by customer segmentation. So you would have people for customer success, one-to-many, we call that. So your interactions were for multiple companies at the same time through webinars, trainings, and office hours. Then you would have people taking care of the mid-markets companies, so more small and medium size, and then you would have people taking care of the enterprise customers. That's where I started as individual contributor. It's for me at that time it was a kind of a career path, but with the time I've seen that it's a really different skill set that you need in different
tiers.
audiences. Exactly.
Okay.
When I joined iText, my role was to build a customer success team from scratch. So there was nothing there. It was just some ad hoc renewals. And my role was to make sure that the customers heard from iText, not only with the occasion of this is your bill, Mr. Customer, but really to add that value that they could have out of the product and from us as a team as well. So we first focused on building that or streamline that renewal process where we went beyond the transactional approach. And then, of course, to implement the real value on those customer interactions from a more proactive approach as a customer success manager.
Yeah. So what I hear you say there is renewal is very important, making sure that they are very satisfied as customers, that get the most out of the solution that, well, iText in your case now offers. Is that mostly the responsibility of CS, or am I missing something there?
No, depending on the company, the role of CS will be or will mean something different. For instance, at Showpad, it was more on the churn prevention and, of course, supporting growth. At iText was really growth because the team, on top of the renewals, was actively involved in any upsell opportunity, and the churn rate was lower. So it was more on growing the existing customer base. Of course, always together with sales, because we also have sales to jump into those.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel that sometimes CS is like of a underappreciated department?
That's how any CS would probably feel. But the truth is, when you've seen the power of CS, you can't have that feeling anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I think it's important from top leadership to make or to create a CS team with a real focus, because it's very easy to land wearing different hats. But in the end, what matters is to grow customers and to make sure that customers see the value. And when you put some KPIs on that, and you can also show that value like a sales team can do, I think that's what any CS organization needs to fill that gap.
Yeah, definitely. Because do you think that there are some bad practices when it comes to CS? Do you think maybe that sometimes, because you mentioned the element of focus is very important. Do you think that there are also CS teams maybe out there that, are just there to help clients sporadically when, questions comes in, really more of a task, the take task, handling, and that there's less of proactivity within the CS team? Do you think that is also a situation?
That's a fact. In some companies, it's difficult to make that step from being a reactive department to a proactive, and that's actually where the magic happens. Of course, I think if you're a customer success manager, you want to have you want to do the best service for a customer, and sometimes that implies that you are more focused on that than on getting a customer to spend more, right? So it's the line can be sometimes too thin to stay in that proactive approach. There are many things customer success needs to do to make that happen. So it's important to, from the top, from the strategy, to define what do we want to achieve as a team and stick to that.
I like that. And maybe we'll come back to that later when we talk about what kind of also skill set is really required for best-in-class customer success reps. But maybe before we do that, can you also kind of explain customer success team? How would you structure or how have you seen that it is structured before? You mentioned earlier having different tiers depending on the size of the accounts. But do you also have different roles within the customer success team?
Yes, for sure. I think the maturity of the department is very important, but also in which stage is the company at that time.
Okay.
For instance, if you are in a startup and you are just getting started, you have a couple of customers or 1,000 of customers, you don't need maybe to diversify the roles, while because you want to focus on it's probably the first years of your product, so you want to make sure that the customers are staying, right? It's you're building a recurrent business, that should be the focus. But then when you're in a scale up level as a company, maybe your customer success manager departments needs to have different roles to support that new phase of the company.
Yeah.
So maybe you won't have people that will focus on onboarding the customers, while another profile will focus on then growing those customers, keeping them. And maybe you also need to have another team that takes care of the renewal portion of that, more from a purchasing relationship perspective.
Right.
So then it depends on the stage of the company and the maturity of the team.
Okay. Well, very interesting. So suppose now you have to develop or actually hire a CS, different CS reps to really have that CS team in place. What would be for you the perfect customer success rep, if there is such thing as a perfect customer success rep, of course?
So I think the first exercise is to take a step back and to think, indeed, what's the ideal customer success manager that I need for this company, for this product, and for my goal, as I was mentioning. So, for instance, if I want to build a team that it's about making sure that the customers are educating in the product, that they see the value, that will be totally different profile, or some components totally different than when you want to grow customers. You have a stable product and you really need more commercial skills, I would say, to spot those opportunities, to qualify customers, and of course to involve sales if you are also in partnership with sales on existing customer base. The second component, of course, is, as I mentioned, the stage of the company. I would say when you are in a real startup, I would hire for people with an entrepreneurial mindset, because you will need to create a foundation, the basis, and you need people that can take initiative, that want to make an impact, that can support the team by building those blueprints. And also these first employees will shape and define the culture of the team, of the company. So that's also different elements than when you go into a scale-up phase. And we were talking about diversifying the roles. Then you also have other skills that can be added. Maybe you want to start a digital customer success plan, and then you also need people with more project management skills, people that have worked with marketing in the past on creating that campaign, with operations. So these are also different skills. And also very important is the product, because when you have a very technical product, you will need technical team within CS. Right? The important thing is to speak your customer language. If your audience are developers, you might need to have developers in your customers.
I was going to ask, should you then have previous experience, related then to the field of, or at least understand, in order to understand that customer very well?
Yeah, I think it depends as well. If the product is very technical, you people that have that background, right? You cannot just talk about implementation and coding if you don't bring that with you. But I think sometimes when we look for customer success, we always think they should have 2, 3, 5 years of customer success experience. Well, I think if the technical component is not there, you can be broader in searching for the right talent.
Mm-hmm.
You could think of teachers maybe that want to jump
Right.
into this because it would be great when you are looking for people to build an education plan for customers. This is something they've built in the past, right? What it's important is to assess what's the gap that you will need to fill when you're bringing people that are not coming from a CS experience.
Okay.
If we look into teachers, probably they will need to build their business acumen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the time and the resources to support
To
them
make
on
that
that?
happen. Yeah.
And like this, we could also think of even pre-sales people. They are great in customer-facing interactions. They know how to assess the value, how to propose solution towards issues that the customer have. But maybe you want them, if you need them in a customer success that is focusing on growth, maybe you also need to spend that extra time on coaching them on commercial skills.
Mm-hmm.
So again, do you have the time, the resources, and how you do that to support them? But it can be quite broader than just looking for previous customer success managers.
No, definitely. And I think in times where you have war for talent, I think that's a great
Exactly.
idea to look also outside the existing customer success managers out there. Now, do you also, because you have also been, I mean, managing a sales team before that, do you also see there a lot of similarities between, you know, sales superstars, to say it like that, and also customer success manager superstars? Do you see there some similarities, or in the contrary, maybe you see things that work very well in sales but actually don't work at all in customer success?
Yeah, I think we can also be very good sellers, but from a software perspective. So I think the right combo is when you have your bad and your good and your bad cop, and you can play like this with a in a customer interaction, right? But yeah, there are certainly similarities. I think active listening skills are crucial for both
Mm-hmm.
because in the end you want to understand what are the needs and the problems of a customer. You need this for both sales and customer success. You also want to have great communication skills. Otherwise, the message, of course, is not given.
Obviously.
But also relationship building. You also need that. Even if you would be a hunter, a seller, you still need to build that link and that connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
That then customer success can further develop in time. Stress tolerance, I think that's also something that we both need to fulfill. We are in the end bringing revenue, and that comes together with targets and with
And some
KPIs.
pressure.
So
Yeah.
some pressure, exactly. So I think that's also a very a shared
I
one.
still have a question for you, to just better understand the dynamics between customer success and sales. How I see it now is that you have sales that go hands on new accounts. Once those new accounts become clients, then you have, you know, the onboarding phase that happens with customer success. But what now if an upsell or a cross sell must happen? Does it happen with the customer success team, or because earlier you also said sometimes that sales comes in with customer success, but then whose responsibility is it to, you know, to make that deal happen or whatsoever? And maybe maybe it changes from company to company, but curious about your experience on that.
Exactly. It depends on the company and what the company has defined, or the leader from CS has defined from what it's expected from the team. But you can have two options. One option is sales is indeed the hunter, and everything that happens post sales, and actually it should happen already before the sale is in hands of customer success, including the growth of the accounts, the renewal, the upsell, the cross sell.
Why
You
do you
have organized.
say, sorry I'm interrupting, but why do you say before the close, customer success should already be part of it? In what way should they already be part of it?
So imagine you're a customer, you are going to make an investment, and of course you want to have the best out of your investments. Customer success is another resource that will bring you value. So when it's positioned already before the sale, it's positioned as another resource that you as a customer will have to fulfill your goals with the product. So when you have the possibility to have a dedicated customer success manager that is already involved in that closing phase, I would say, on one hand, that person will meet the right people and will continue from there. This person will not lose track of the key stakeholders on the deal. And on the other hand, you as a customer start building that trust, and this is my go-to person, and wherever I will need from the product, I will this is my person, and it's already there. So it works both sides, internally and external with the customer. Also, it helps to break silos with sales, because sometimes imagine you are the customer, you've tell your whole story, and then, okay, so this is your customer success manager, the other person disappears from your life, and then you have to tell again the same story to a stranger. While if that person is already involved, it's about taking your goals to the next step.
No, definitely. Super interesting one. Because I was also going to ask you the question of, is there sometimes a misalignment between what sales promise to the customer and what then CS can actually fulfill? But I imagine that with that approach, you kind of also attack that possible problem.
Exactly. And I think one of our major things is to set the right expectations, and sometimes is to redefine the right expectations from sales. I don't want to blame sales there at all, because I think there is also a huge component, which is the KPIs and how the teams are measured. And of course, if you are measuring sales on the short-term revenue, you cannot expect to think long-term. So I think the way you compensate sales teams can also boost long-term thinking, if you understand what I mean.
Can you explain it more?
Yeah. For instance, if I need to reach my targets, I'm sales, I need to reach my targets. And if I know that I can sell now 20K, despite whatever will happen with the customer, of course, I'm going to push for 20K. If I know that, for instance, this is something that at a certain point we had in the sales team at Showpets. If I know I'm also responsible for the first time they will renew, and my target will be affected if they don't renew those 20K, I will think already 1 year ahead. So I will make sure I set the right foundation for the team, so that I have still within this year opportunity to cross-sell or upsell with the same customer and to build that confidence. So that's why I think it's not only the sales person, because in the end, KPIs drive behavior, but it's on what do you want and how will you compensate your teams to achieve those goals.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, because that definitely brings interesting perspective. Because now I'm also kind of wondering, not entirely related to the previous point, but still related, just regarding compensation plan for the customer success team. How does it work there? Do you also, because of course you also work with targets more often than not. So do you always link it to that as well?
Yeah, compensation, and also the focus that you have for the customer success team is crucial. So in terms of numbers, it's all about churn and retention. So gross retention and net retention. So basically, we could think of how many customers we lose, how many customers are buying less. That's what we would call churn. But also, on the other hand, you have from what they will be expanding, how much are they expanding more compared to what they previously spent. So that's the net retention. Okay. And nowadays, net retention is the key metric for customer success teams, because it's not only about avoiding customers to leave, but also to make sure that they grow. There is another KPI that it's also typical for customer success teams, which is the Net Promoter Score, NPS. And it's under customer success, but I think it's an effort, because what we want to do, it's a survey that it's sent to the customer to evaluate how their experience with the company is. And the experience can be their interaction with customer success, with products, how they perceive the value, but also how was the selling process. So with that scoring, companies aim to take that as feedback and identify the points where we can get better to provide a better customer experience.
I get that. Now, coming back to the, you want to reduce churn as much as possible. Have you based on your experience, have you had specific strategies or tactics or, anything very specific that actually helped reduce the churn?
Yes. Well, first thing is to understand where is the churn coming from. And in general, I think it's when a customer gets silent, that's a red flag. So, of course, trying to have a cadence of communication with the customer. Another reason can be that the key stakeholder, the decision maker, is not involved anymore. They don't see the value. So we're coming back to being involved in that, sorry, in that initial sale. It's key to get to know that person. And maybe not every month, but maybe every half year or every quarter, have another type of conversation with this person where you really reinforce on how can this product support you and your goals. Because when you lose a key stakeholder, that's also a red
flag, definitely. And then there is where proactivity needs to come in, and
exactly
customer success, calls, emails, reach out and make sure to again explain and make sure that the value is there. When it comes to the customer success team, how have you coached your team? How did that go? What was the cadence? And also, what would you then be coaching more specifically?
I think the first thing is to get them onboarded, because of course we all, I think in sales, in revenue in general, we want to have a short and powerful onboarding time so that the people are at their best as soon as possible. For me, what it has helped is during this onboarding is, of course, you can guide the team in how do we measure the team, how to act on different things. But what I did is I created a system of onboarding where my team is very diverse. They have different talents. And when a new person joins, when it comes to learning about CRM, I have one person that this person will go to. So they will have a session on CRM with a specific person that is great in CRM.
Oh, okay.
Then when it comes to how to spot churn, then there is another person that will give that session on these are the best practices that I'm putting in place, because he is the best person in doing that.
Okay. So those people are people from the team that are not appointed to give a session just for everybody, but that are actually the highest performers, if we can say it like that, in that specific thing, that then will give on the way that they approach it. Very interesting.
That's also because, of course, we might not forget that remote working is not maybe fully there, but sometimes it's a thing. So at iText, my team is or was in 3 different regions, US, EMEA, and Singapore, with 3 different time zones. So even though in Ghent we could go to the office, in the end, most of the team was in other areas. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was very important to make sure that they felt a team. So this might sound insignificant, but when you put people to work together on this session specifically, you are also creating that interaction between both of them to make sure that the glue is there, that there is also a relationship that start building there, that people feel valued. Okay, I'm the subject matter expert within the CS team for this, and I'm presenting like this to new members. And this is also their me time to build that relationship, without the leader being in the middle of without being in the middle of the team. So that's important also for onboarding new people. When it's on the job, of course, when you get to know where the strengths are from a person, you want to support them on the things to improve. And as a leader, that's also, of course, my job. But I think it's important to understand, are there shared points from the team where we need to go beyond the team? For instance, at iText, it was a new customer success team. They needed to learn how sales was managing those upsells. So what we did is also making sure that they could shadow those calls, even with prospects, because in the end, they needed to be coached or trained on how do I also qualify a customer. So joining sales calls, that was also very interesting. Same with products. If we don't give feedback to products, we cannot voice what the customer needs are. So it's identifying where the shared points to coach the team and putting them in contact with the right departments, putting them in contact with the right trusted advisor or their subject matter expert in the team. And of course, as a leader, coaching them not only on the job, but also on how to be more confident. If there are specific personal things, also be there for them. That's also very important to build that trust.
All right, interesting. But is it easy for you to kind of discover what the gaps are, what the elements are that they really need to work on?
Yeah, of course. I think when you have an open feedback or a safe space, you can give feedback and receive feedback, not only on the what do I do, what can I do better, but what do I do well. And then some people are very aware of this is something I need to work on, but some people are not. And when you reflect back, I think that's where it all starts. And that starts, of course, by being with a team. Listening to them, of course. This is what I find difficult. How would you approach this? And that's how you, with the time, of course, you will also identify where to put your attention.
Right. No, definitely. Now, when it comes to developing a CS team, I can also imagine that you have some type of career plan in place for everyone. And what would be like the typical career plan or career development that you would have for the team?
So I think there are two levels there. One is the skill set, and the other one is where they would fit or where their expectations are for a next role. I always say, regardless of the company we are in, what's your aim? What would you like to be in 1 year, in 3 years? 5 years is too long thinking for me. But maybe you want to have in the future your own company. So how can we today support that goal? I like to work in intrinsic motivation. That's more long term than I'm gonna pay you more. That's working for one time, and then the next time they will ask for more.
Yeah.
So where do you want to grow, and how can we already support you on that? That's one thing. And the other thing is, of course, what the environment within that company offers. If you are in a full expansion, if you are in a scale up, the opportunities are out there. So it's making sure that you are prepared from your current role to occupy that position. And what I'm doing is, if I know that person wants to be a team leader at a certain point, I will give projects where those skills are already implicit, so that this person is confident on developing those skills. I can support that person in some areas for improvement, but this person will also be working together with me in bringing that visibility, so that when that role is open, everyone knows this person can do it.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Showing to the team indeed that the competencies and the skill set are there, so that they can
Exactly.
move on. And and go for that new ambition, that new challenge.
Um,
When
Maybe
when
from a career path perspective, as I mentioned in the past, I was what I've seen is you are a junior customer success, so you start with one-to-many activities. Then you get some confidence, then you move a step forward, and then you go to the mid-market one-on-one interactions.
right.
And then only when you are a senior, you can go to enterprise. For me personally, I've seen and I've tested, it doesn't work because the skill set that you need to go to one-to-many are completely different than when you go to talk to an enterprise customer.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to go to one-to-many, you will need program management skills, project management skills, even as the CRM or operation skills. That's something completely different.
Right.
Then when you talk to an enterprise customer and you really need to be good with stakeholder management, with politics, with complexity. So for me, there is no linear path to that. It's about where are your strengths and how can you be even better in your strengths rather than this is the ladder and then the top if you become leader, which is also nonsense.
I'm very
Because
glad
this
that you
is
say that. Yeah.
yes.
I feel that there is the same perception in when it comes to sales, that you have to become first an SDR, then an account executive, then maybe an enterprise account executives, while actually it's just a different environment, different skill set are required for that. And definitely not everyone should follow that path. That's
Exactly.
definitely
And I
for
have,
sure.
for instance, someone in the team that came from sales, and she's a great enterprise customer success manager, and she was a mid-market sales. So you
Look
see,
at that.
the career path is not linear; it's also between departments, and I think that's where you really can work on your strengths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely also like the approach of really understanding what everybody wants in the future and make an environment that fits that ambition.
Exactly.
Now, and if there are any, but what kind of mistakes maybe have you made in the past that you thought, gosh, why did I do this? I will never do this ever again. That maybe could be interesting for the audience to know.
I made a lot of mistakes, of course, but that's how we learn.
Yeah,
But
no,
I think
definitely.
my first mistake as leader is I think it's a shared pain. You tend to find yourself in the person that you are hiring. So you are successful doing X. So you tend to look for your first hires to people that are kind of your profile.
Copies of you. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's not working because you need to find people that complement your strengths. That's the only way. Same with culture fit. I fully agree. There's need to be that culture fit, but watch out with having same personalities. Same personalities. I always think it's like a puzzle. So imagine you need to make a big puzzle in short term. That's startup scale up world, and all the pieces look the same. You will be spending a lot of time, a lot of frustration because you don't find the right place, the right puzzle piece for the right place. While if every single piece is different, you will be able to make the puzzle faster. Their uniqueness will make the big plan, and they will also find their unique place within this full puzzle.
I like that.
So that comes with seniority, and I'm talking about cross generations. In my team, I have someone that it's 27, I have someone that's 55, and it's incredible how well they can complement each other. Different nationalities, if you're working in an international environment, that's a must because you need to understand the local needs. That's that's a must. And I think the glue to make that puzzle strong is the values. So if you have a team with different personalities, skill set, but they have the same values, I think that's a perfect recipe for success.
No, definitely. So that's definitely also something that when recruiting new CS members, you definitely take into account.
For sure, that's one of my questions. Is around values, and it's I always ask it in the same way. What are those values that you have received from your parents that if you have kids or if you will have kids, you would love them to have. That's where
Interesting.
they
Yes.
really think about that. And some people know that perfectly. Some people it's the first time that they are thinking about that. But for me, that's crucial, because if we don't share the values, you can be the best performer, but short term.
Does it mean that if people, it's the first time they think of it, is it because they don't really, I mean, to you, is that a bad sign that they cannot articulate the values? Because maybe they still have it, but they just don't articulate it very well.
Exactly. I try to support them and give some direction on, for instance, this could be important for you, or this. I don't think it's bad not to or to think about your values for the first time. I think it's a very difficult process or of awareness, of self-awareness.
Yeah.
But also, again, if I need a more senior person for a specific role in a specific moment, that question for me is also important, because I need someone with self-awareness probably at that point. So that gives a lot of information, that simple question.
Yeah, no, definitely. Is there anything else that you do or ask that are very typical at job interviews like that?
I took one from Peter Jan from Showpads during my interview process there. I found it was a great question. So he asked me, "Tell me about something crazy you've done." And I thought immediately, okay, I did skydive, and of course it's nice to talk about skydive. But what it's nice when you are in the interviewer seat is to see what really motivates you and where you have your passion, because you can ask the person, "What do you like to do in your current job? What gives you energy?" And then you see in their body language, "Well, I love talking to customers, solving problems." But then when you really go into that question and you see how the face turns,
Right.
that's where you spot, this is really passion. This is really where I can find this from my questions. That's where I know this person is being genuine, and where the real motivation is. So I think that's a very powerful question.
Yeah, and you probably also won't get the answers that they baked it for you, because that that's kind of what you want to hear, and there you really get the person. No, I like that question. Thank you for sharing that one. Nieves, thank you so much for coming on the show. Kind of explain again what you will be doing now, as because you're now ending your job at iText. And if people then want to find out more about you and they want to reach out to you, where would you send them to?
So I will be advising customers companies on from a startup scale-up phase on the post-sales teams. We focus on the customer experience and on customer success. And my next assignment is with Settlement. Settlement is making blockchain technology for enterprise a must. It's spread over how many countries they are now opening in Japan. It's a very, very interesting technology, and I will be supporting Settlements in building from scratch the post-sales team. So everything about onboarding, developer relationships, support. So
even broader than customer success, as you have witnessed it now.
Exactly. So yeah. If I can be of any help to anyone, of course, don't hesitate to reach out. I think it's sharing knowledge is also one of my passions. So if I can be of any help, feel free to reach out.
Look at that. Thank you so much for just doing that and for being a guest on the show. So if people want to find out more about you or they want to reach out, they go to LinkedIn preferably?
Yeah, you can go to LinkedIn, Nieves Canada, and I'll be there.
And you'll be there.
Or via Dylan, of course.
Definitely. I mean, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Exactly.
I will make an introduction with a lot of pleasure. Now, I have one last question, Nieves. And the question goes as follows. If Nieves was a brand, what would it stand for?
Authenticity, flexibility, and just be yourself.
All
Really,
right.
my purpose is to enable people to take the most out of themselves and in an authentic way. So I think
I think
that's
that's
what
a
what I do.
beautiful value that you should indeed keep taking on with you. Nieves, thank you so much and wishing you only but the best.
Thanks a lot, Dylan, for having me, and all the best also for you.